Hey there, folks. This is Pop Culture. I'm Alex Pop, and now it's time for me to start talking spoilers about Jurassic World Dominion, which was my most anticipated movie of my lifetime. Now, thank you to all of you for your sympathetic comments on my spoiler-free review, despite a number of you really liking the movie. After I spent so much time building it up and even being an ardent defender of Fallen Kingdom, I wasn't expecting the response to be as warm as it was. And I definitely needed that because in the days after seeing the movie, I really didn't feel good, and I still kinda don't. I felt so empty that I honestly started to wonder if I was losing some of my passion for cinema. But as the quote used at the end of Jojo Rabbit says, let everything happen to you, beauty and terror. Just keep going. No feeling is final. So I did a few things to try to remind myself of what's really important in life. Went to a night of worship in the children's ministry at my church. And to Stephanie, Rachel, and Pastor Alex, I know you guys watch my stuff, so thank you. I am blessed to be able to help. And I've been trying to remember the words of 1 John 2:15. Do not love the world or the things in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. So I'm feeling a little more like myself again, but still downhearted that I can't celebrate with those who thought that Jurassic World Dominion was a great finale, because to describe my disappointment with it, words fail. To anyone that needs to hear this, know that my criticism towards Dominion comes from the exact same place as my praise for Fallen Kingdom. It comes from a place of love. I care so much about the Jurassic franchise, I want to see it handle the story, characters, and the canon well, and I'm going to be honest about how I feel. One thing disliked by most critics is that they say the movie is overstuffed, that there's so much going on. That's not something that I minded. It's meant to wrap up two big trilogies. I went in knowing that there were going to be a lot of story threads, so being a fan, I was sure I'd follow them all fine. And you know, when you're a fan of something, when you go into a new movie having memorized so many details of prior installments, that can give you an advantage over critics and casual moviegoers in being able to see what the filmmakers are going for. That may have easily contributed to my love for Fallen Kingdom, and even so, I still found little in Dominion that was worth defending. I saw Jurassic World 5 times in the theater. I saw Fallen Kingdom 6, and I was very hesitant to go see Dominion for even the second time. Now I did, but it was really just so that I could absorb as many details as I could so I could make a thorough spoiler talk video. And because there's quite a bit I want to talk about, I decided to split it into multiple parts so that we can have an easier time discussing individual aspects of the movie. And what I'm going to talk about in this first part is without a doubt the most dumbfounding directional decision in the movie. The big threat that the world is trying to deal with is not the dinosaurs now inhabiting the planet, it's a huge swarm of giant locusts. This is the driving force of the plot. These locusts are decimating crops at a rapid rate, but only crops that aren't planted with seed from biosin. Ellie Sattler discovers that they're fused with prehistoric DNA, and this is what sets her out on this adventure with Alan Grant to collect a DNA sample from one of the locusts at biosin as proof that Lewis Dodgson is trying to take control of the world's food supply. And I have to mention something that Dodgson definitely did not think through. Once he discovers that Grant and Sattler successfully obtained the DNA sample from one of his locusts, he decides to torch all the evidence by setting the locusts ablaze, but they all fly out of a vent causing Biosin Valley to catch fire. So Dodgson didn't think about the fact that there's a vent in this lab that the locusts can easily escape out of? He seriously needs to can whoever built their containment. And don't even get me started on how long it takes for those bugs' wings to vaporize. Back to the point at hand, the mere idea of genetically modified locusts in a vacuum is one that I'm not necessarily opposed to. It's perfectly plausible given what geneticists in the Jurassic universe are capable of. I mean, it's not like Biosin is trying to take over the world with robots or something. Can you imagine? Robots in Jurassic Park? Nobody would have done that. And in fairness, it doesn't come entirely out of left field. You could say that Fallen Kingdom alludes to something of the sort.
So now we've got genetic power, so how long is it going to take for that to spread around the globe? And what's going to be done with it? It ain't going to stop with the de-extinction of the dinosaurs.
So this premise could work for maybe a Jurassic spin-off story or a TV episode, whatever is in mind for the future. But for what is meant to be the epic finale to the Jurassic story, it goes without saying that it should center around the dinosaurs. And after Fallen Kingdom left us with a game-changing cliffhanger, it only makes sense that the follow-up would be about the human race adjusting to this new peril in the world. We now have a whole universe of limitless possibilities gift-wrapped for us. And yet, for reasons beyond all comprehension, the dinosaurs and the fact that they're roaming free in the world is a complete afterthought. I was really thrilled that the trailers for Dominion didn't give away too many important plot points like the ones for Fallen Kingdom did. But now we know there was a strategic reason for this. They didn't want us to see what the movie was really about, because it would disinterest us. Any acknowledgement of dinosaurs living in the wild just bookends the movie. The meat of it is this mission to stop these locusts from causing a global famine. And while they're in yet another isolated area, they happen to encounter some dinosaurs. So much for all that talk at the end of Fallen Kingdom. You know, these creatures were here before us, and if we're not careful, they're going to be here after. Welcome to Jurassic World! And it wasn't just that cliffhanger. We got the short film, Battle at Big Rock, that was intended to give us a taste of what was to come. The prologue with the T-Rex being chased into a drive-in. We got Dino Tracker, the awesome viral marketing website telling us where dinosaur sightings have taken place in the world. And even short videos with the lead stars in character instructing us on what to do when we see a certain dino.
If spotted, hey, don't move. Because you know what? His vision is based on movement. So if you're like that, you can't see it.
And that's all excluding the synopsis the movie's official website gives us. The marketing team went so out of their way to lie to us that in the trailer is voiceover from Ellie Sattler where she insists,
"Humans and dinosaurs can't coexist."
That line is nowhere in the movie, because it ain't what the movie's about. All of this may very well be the most insulting bait and switch I've ever witnessed on screen. And to pour salt into the wound, the state of the world has so little to do with this story that it doesn't even have any effect on the characters, even though it absolutely should. For starters, Claire and Owen, they ought to feel responsibility for the world that they helped create, as inadvertent as it was, but we never really see that. The movie opens with both of them rescuing dinosaurs from being poached, and sure, they still love their animals and care about their well-being even now, but what about the new peril that's come into the world too? They did acknowledge that at the end of Fallen Kingdom, Claire couldn't bring herself to press the button and free the dinosaurs. And as they watch the pteranodons, you can see the ominous look on their faces as they think to themselves, oh man, what have we gotten into? So it would have been much more appropriate if they acknowledged both in Dominion. It could start with Owen having his cattle drive with the Parasaurolophus, while Claire is helping move carnivores away from a neighborhood in the forest or something. This also definitely goes for Macy. It would only make sense that as she gets older and sees what the world is coming to, that she would start to carry those feelings of guilt as well, despite her deep connection with these animals. But the movie doesn't explore that or how she finds peace with herself. I've gone on and on about how I've got nothing against her for thinking that setting the dinosaurs free was the right thing to do. She was a sad little kid under extreme circumstances, so she couldn't process all the possible consequences. But the fact that this defining plot point in Fallen Kingdom plays no role in her story arc, never even so much as mentioned, that really irked me. Well hey, maybe we'll get a resolution to that in the Macy Lockwood book series. Hey, I'm looking forward to reading it now, but movies have to work on their own. This might especially go for Dr. Henry Wu. Anyone would think that his creations being loose in the world would be where he reaches the tipping point in recognizing his errors. And you could say that is his motivation to work for Biosyn in this movie. He wants to make some good come out of what he's done, so he went to Biosyn to study the dinosaurs' pharmaceutical benefits and find cures for diseases. But that's not what the movie chooses to focus on. Here's just how deliberately misleading the trailers are. In the second trailer, Wu says to Macy,
"We made a terrible mistake."
We made a terrible mistake. That leads us to assume that he's talking about the dinosaur crisis, saying to her, you and I, we share responsibility in this, but there is something we can do about it. But no, what he says in the movie is, I need to fix a mistake I made. And again, it's all about the locusts, as opposed to, oh, I don't know, everything Wu's ever done over the past 30 years? Jurassic Park, the Indominus Rex, the Indoraptor, being Eli Mills' accomplice and selling endangered species? You've got so much material from previous installments to work with here. Why would you make these characters' arcs revolve around something completely different? I really don't get it. And despite Fallen Kingdom going to all that trouble of telling us the islands are gone and there's no going back, the plot of Dominion really could have happened with or without the islands. The locusts are fused with prehistoric DNA, which Biosyn has had in their possession for quite a while now. Ramsey Cole, Biosyn's head of communications, says to Grant and Sattler that their first generation of dinosaurs came from Isla Sorna. So that's at least 19 years they've had them, since the remainder of dinosaurs on Sorna were moved to Nublar for Jurassic World. I have to say also, when this is made aware to us, doesn't it kinda negate some of the stakes of Fallen Kingdom? I mean, I know the global debate in that movie isn't so much about keeping dinosaurs alive as a species. I mean, if that were the case, they could just make more. It's more about whether or not these individual animals deserve rights since they are alive. But it does take away a little bit of the urgency once you know that the dinosaurs of Isla Nublar aren't the last ones on Earth, as everyone kept saying. The only thing this movie really does to bring some sort of resolution to the dinosaur crisis is that, I guess because we defeated this bigger threat in the locusts with this solution that uses the DNA of both Macy, a human, and Beta, a dinosaur, this is proof that dinosaurs and man can coexist. The very end of the movie is a recording of Charlotte Lockwood in which she says, "In order to survive, we have to depend on each other, coexist." And so as the credits begin rolling, I'm just left thinking, that's really it? That's all you got for us? In keeping with what the movie was built up to be, wouldn't it make so much more sense if Biosyn was looking for ways to take advantage of the situation? Like, say, exploiting the world's collective fear of dinosaurs taking over? Suppose maybe they were manufacturing some sort of toxin that would drive dinosaurs away from natural habitats and toward human civilization. Biosyn then comes forward publicly to say, "Your fears are justified. These are indeed bloodthirsty animals that love nothing more than hunting humans. We hear your cries for help, and we are developing a solution." Owen, being an expert on these animals' behaviors, knows that this doesn't seem normal and senses something's up, so this gives him and Claire a reason to start investigating, trying to track Biosyn employees in different parts of the world. I don't know, I'm just kind of spitballing, but at least that's something that lives up to the premise we were repeatedly told we were going to get. What's honestly the saddest part of this for me is that, in a way, Jurassic World Dominion is a movie I'd been waiting for my whole life. Ever since I was really little, I had fantasies about dinosaurs coming back to life, and when I was 10 or 11-ish, I wrote a story about this happening and humans having to deal with that change. Then, at 13, I saw Jurassic Park and its 2 sequels. The 4th was still in development hell at the time, and I thought to myself, wouldn't it be so cool if one day these movies brought that idea I've always had to life? And for these last 4 years, I had every reason to believe that it was going to happen before my eyes. But alas, it didn't really. And as a result, this movie doesn't feel like a proper conclusion at all. Instead, the whole thing just feels like an elaborate troll. I didn't endure the destruction of the island and the death of that Brachiosaurus just for this. So, what are your thoughts? You agree with my points? Disagree? Did you like the direction this movie took? Whatever it be, let me know in the comments, and be sure to stick around for part 2 of my spoiler talk, in which I'll be discussing what the dinosaurs do get to do. That's a wrap. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like and share, subscribe for more. This is Pop Culture. I'm Alex Pop.